G'day, I'm James, and welcome to the Australian opinion on Formula One here at the Lakeside Drive F1 podcast. In this episode, I chat with friend of the show and Formula One performance coach, Michael Italiano. Well, mate, so great to have you back on the podcast. Thank you for joining us. It's February, which means you've gone to Perth, I assume. You've had lots of food and wine. You've then since worked it off. You're back ready for another year of Formula One.
Yeah, thanks, James. Good to chat again. I can't remember the last time we spoke, but it's felt like a long time.
Is that a good or a bad thing? Who knows? It doesn't really matter. Well, I can tell you it was the beginning of 2021 when we last spoke, and there was obviously a lot of stuff has happened since then. As I said to you before we started recording, this is a chat about you and your experiences with that. Listeners, if you're expecting something else, plenty of other podcast episodes out there with DR talking about his own stuff. So, Michael, what I'd love to know firstly is about your business, because the last time we spoke, you were really starting to kick into gear. I know that we've caught up a couple of times texting, and then the other time that we caught up, you had filmed something like how many days straight of all of these exercises? It just was ridiculous.
Yeah. I'm trying to launch an app. It's absolutely consuming me at the moment, but I do think I'm about a month away. Thank God. It's been like maybe 1.5 years in the process, and you want to film classes, exercises. So building a pretty damn strong exercise library for everyone. So that takes time. So yes, last time I think we spoke, we were in London, and I was on a bit of a filming marathon, so my body was broken. But no, it's all going well. But it's a big thing to launch something like that, and so I want to make sure I get it right. So I mean, the good thing is I'm in no particular rush, but I am working behind the scenes quite hard to get it done. So yeah, I reckon I'm about a month away, which is exciting, and yeah, still training other motorsport athletes too, which is also keeping me busy. So I'm doing more than enough for the time being.
So what can we expect when it comes to the app itself? I know you've been working exceptionally hard, and there's a lot out there in the fitness market, isn't there, in terms of, especially coming out of New Year's and the very classic New Year's resolution of either going to the gym or starting an online fitness regime. Why should people come to you? What makes yours special? I know, but I'd love for you to tell our listeners why.
Well, if I implement it well, it is going to be a fantastic fitness app for a variety of classes, whether you like yoga, Pilates, strength, CrossFit, HIIT, or LIT, which is like low intensity stuff. But I'm also doing all the programming. So, if you do want specific programs that you can follow, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 6 months, I'll be doing all that. We also have a physio hub that's going to be on there. So if anything's niggling or something like that, you have a physio in your pocket, which is super cool. And I'm really excited about that. And we're also integrating some pretty cool technology where, you can give yourself a body scan if you want and check out your body fat percentage. And I kind of want to shift it. Like, I want to, I guess, synchronize health into the fitness aspect where people can actually log in and check their health parameters. And, I do want to partner with some medical companies where, maybe you can sign up and when you're a part of My Trainer, you can also get a membership to test yourself on a quarterly basis, whether it's your bloods or just daily health parameters where you can just check your markers. It's something I do quite a lot being here in London. Is every quarter I get my bloods done, and there's some really cool innovative businesses where they'll just send you a little parcel and you prick your finger and you put some blood in a test vial and you get results in 2 days time. So I'd love to kind of like bring that health aspect into my fitness app where people are tracking their activity and whatnot, but you can also track your health in there as well.
Mate, that sounds bloody incredible. I mean, what a key set of differences to a lot of apps and online training and even in-person training, I suppose, that's already out there. Do you reflect on where you were sitting in Perth in that office job to now and pinch yourself at all?
Yeah, the pinch me moments come when I'm actually at the track, believe it or not. Not generally when I'm at home working. Yeah. Usually when I'm at the track, I do think about my life in Perth, and there's nothing wrong with my life in Perth, by the way, and life in Perth is fantastic. But how fast, I guess, the career has kind of transitioned and where I am, I definitely wouldn't have picked it. And I guess that's the exciting part of life, right? If you just you don't know where your journey is going to take you, and I'd say embrace that. I don't like to plan ahead too much, so I kind of just go with the flow. And so far, it's worked out not bad.
To say the least. All right, well, let's talk about racetracks then and emotion, because a couple of months after we spoke initially on this podcast, Monza happened, which I think was the entire of Australia erupted with screens. So I know I did. I think I woke my neighbor up. I was that excited about what happened. But I'd love to get your side of everything. I mean, McLaren did the unbox stuff and there was a lot of cameras in faces, but they weren't yours, although plenty of our listeners were spotting you in the background of a lot of shots, either be it on broadcast or anything else now. I think we almost had a Michael Italiano spot the, where's Michael Italiano rather than where's Wally? But talk us through that whole thing through the start of the weekend, because of course it was different. It was a sprint race and then it was the actual race. And of course being in Italy for you as well, but it must have just been mind-blowing.
Yeah, Monza's always been quite friendly to us. We've always had really good results in Monza, and yeah, I think it's probably the entire package. As in, we go to Italy, and Daniel's like extremely popular in Italy, so there's a lot of love, and you feel it as soon as you land. He has his favorite pizza joint there that we would go to probably every night and have amazing pizza. So if you're heavily food driven like us, that's always an easy mood booster right there, where you just have some good food every night and the vibe's good. And he liked the tracks. And fortunately in 2021, the McLaren car was very competitive. So, we had some really good results. The car was super quick in a straight, I think probably the quickest. So Monza was always going to suit the car. It's just one of those weekends where everything just went right. That's very hard to come by in Formula One, because there are so many contingencies outside your control that can go wrong. So yeah, it was just like you said, it was probably just the perfect weekend where everything went right, and that's from the driver, that's from, I guess, the preparation, the mood, like the team mood, the internal mood, and even like the pit stop itself. The team absolutely nailed the 2 pit stops on the race weekend. So like everyone was just on, and I guess we just, unfortunately for us, we just everything went right, and we got a 1-2. We maximized that opportunity essentially, because sometimes everything feels good and you're doing well, and you don't get to maximize it because something goes wrong. So it was great that we were able to maximize that as a team, and then obviously most importantly get another win from Team DR.
Yeah, it was bloody fantastic to watch. Obviously our favorite moment in the last almost 10 years. When it comes to the championship winning mindset, when we spoke about when you left Red Bull and went to Renault, and you sort of said that the mindset there was just kind of lacking a little bit. They weren't really together in terms of trying to be as good as they possibly could. Did you find by the time that McLaren were on, and you even said the team did 2 beautiful pit stops, was it already kind of humming along a little bit, or was sort of Team DR working a little bit in the background like you guys did at Renault to help get everyone together and, switch on the A game all the time?
I think everyone has their own different culture and, leadership ways on how they, want to deliver what they want to deliver. And I guess, yeah, with Renault, that's, I don't like to generalize. There was definitely majority of the mechanics that wanted to win. And, when we got those 2 podiums with Renault, that was unreal. And I could see the joy that it brought on the team's face. So that was super awesome. And I think, you don't know what you don't know. So, when you come from a team like Red Bull that had won 4 constructed championships before then, they just automatically had this winning mindset. And I think learning how to develop that winning mindset is tough, right? And it's something that, I guess, going into Renault, that they wanted really badly. And I think getting a taste of those 2 podiums was something like I could tell, like the shift in mindset, the shift in energy. It was really cool. Like by the end of the season, I think Esteban got a P2. Was it last race? I think he got a P2. Don't quote me, but he definitely got a P2 in one of the last races. So I remember the momentum finishing that year, like everyone was just on a high, and it was super awesome. And then coming into McLaren, I think led by Andreas Seidl, he's just a competitor, you know, and he's a winner, and he's a fantastic leader, who I have tremendous respect in. So I automatically, coming into McLaren, I noticed his influence on the culture and the team. And, you know, even when we had a good weekend, he'd always find ways at little margins on how we could improve. And no, we need to get better. We need to be faster. And, you know, we're 3/10 off in quali. I want that to be 1.5 by, you know, in a month's time. Like he was always striving for perfection, which was awesome. He was always pushing the team. And I think that's what kind of that was a bit instinctive in the end, where everyone was just, you know, pushing, and, you know, energy breeds energy. So his energy was very reflective within the team. So I could definitely see in McLaren 2021 that there was a very, very big hype, and so there should be. There was a seriously good car. I think, you know, Lando, he podiumed like three times, I think, and I think he got like his first pole position, and then obviously DR got the win, and so like that was a big year for the team, and that was awesome to be a part of.
Yeah, I think people readily forget just how on form that team was back then. But geez, regulations change, and sometimes everything changes. The one great thing I think with Andreas Seidl now is that he has now that DR's no longer with McLaren, he's gone to find the other more Australian person on the grid, which is currently Valtteri Bottas with that absolute killer mullet at Alfa Romeo. So I mean, geez, what a wide.
Yeah, I think Valtteri broke the internet in the off season with his amazing content. It was definitely my favorite person to follow over the off season.
Yeah. It's interesting, and I'm curious to know your thoughts on this, because it seems to be that he's doing a lot of cycling. I'm sure he's doing a lot of other strength thing as well. But is there any sort of benefit to one specific type of cardio over another for a Formula One driver?
Not necessarily. I think it's also a lot more. It's like cycling is a lot more low impact than running. So, you know, it's a lot less enduring on the body and hard on the body if you go out for a 2-hour cycle compared to a 2-hour run. So cycling is good from that aspect as well, and it's probably a lot more fun because you see a lot more as well. There's some amazing trails, and especially in Europe, whether it's, you know, on the incline or decline, or it's actually quite fun. So, and his new partner, she's obviously an Australian cyclist, so that kind of works hand in hand, where they can semi-train together, but also, you know, enjoy some time together. So, yeah, I generally opt for cycling with Yuki, because running can be a little bit quite hard on the joints, especially if you're doing quite a lot of it. And, you know, being in a car for 90 minutes, it's tough on the body from a cardio aspect. So you do need to keep these guys fit. But variety's key. So, you know, sometimes I'll get him jogging, or sometimes I'll get him on the rower, which he absolutely hates the rower. Yuki wants to slap me when I prescribe the rower. So, but generally we'll cycle. He's a very, very strong cyclist. So I like the competition of trying to keep up with him.
We'll come to Yuki in a couple of moments. Let's just talk about the break between 21 and 22. There was a lot. Well, I mean, really from Monza basically into the end of last year, there was a lot of people being incorrect in so-called journalist fields, let's just say. A lot of idiots out there with very incorrect opinions. But how was it for you to reset between 21 and 22? New regulations coming up. Of course, we know that Team DR, with the three of you at track, if Blake is there at the track with you, and the wider team as well, how important was the mental aspect too? Because I know you've been doing some incredible studying. On top of everything else that you're doing, you're also studying in some incredible areas. So was it sort of being able to gather all this information up through your studies and then trying to apply it practically, not only in the Formula One sense, but the personal sense for you, because you're impacted as much as everyone else by this stuff, surely?
Yeah, I think the break in between, it was a good time for us to obviously evaluate the season. The season didn't go obviously to plan, to our standards as a team DR. I'm talking internally. So, it was definitely quite a big, I guess, self-evaluation going on. But also, there's a bit of a sense of excitement because the car was super good, right? And then with new regs coming in, it almost gives, the teams that, let's say the top two for the last, 5-6 years, Red Bull and Mercedes, it kind of gave the rest of the teams a chance. So hang on, this is our chance to, I guess, close the gap, essentially. So, and also maybe the characteristics of the car changing, which was also exciting because, it wasn't, the characteristics of the car weren't generally working for DR in 2021. So, yeah, like for me, the break was really exciting. And like always, we did preseason in Perth and in some amazing weather in the heat, which I love. So, I found it like a really exciting time with like not knowing what's going to happen. And then, come testing, Barcelona went really well. And then I think Bahrain was not too bad. But then obviously race one, if people can remember, the car wasn't competitive at all. So within 3 days, this entire sense of excitement for the year kind of diminished very quickly. But that's the sport, unfortunately.
Yes, you put that very nicely. It certainly was a big piece of shit. How did you manage to deal with Daniel having COVID? Because that genuinely interests me. We saw plenty of athletes in Formula One in the previous year get it and then really struggle. We saw Lewis Hamilton struggle with long COVID in some of those instances when he got on podiums. Was it difficult for DR because it was so early in your training schedule in this season as well?
Yeah, I think getting COVID around the season in general is obviously never ideal. However, when you do all the hard work and you build such a good baseline of fitness in pre-season to be primed for race one, and then you get it during testing, it's that's definitely not one of the best timings to get COVID. So yeah, he had it pretty hard. He had I think for 7 days he was knocked around quite a bit. The night sweats, the fevers, the low energy. So I know Bahrain was a struggle, but I also remember a week later we went to Saudi and it was super hot, and that track is super physical. He really struggled. Well, when I say struggled, I could see after the race he was a lot more spent than what he generally would be. So he was definitely fighting at the first 4 races. I'm going to say to a point where he wasn't completely where he knew he could be at. Obviously, if he didn't have COVID and he was fully fit. So yeah, it does definitely take a toll on you. And I don't know how many drivers got it. Definitely, I'm going to say at least 70% of the guys got it within the race season. So yeah, it couldn't have been easy for anyone to actually go through that and then try and drive a Formula One car with that much concentration.
Yeah, just absolutely mental. And as you say, didn't really set up totally well for him for the season. 2022 happened and it was what it was, of course. And as I said to you before we started recording, I think a lot of people assumed incorrectly that you would not be in Formula One this year as well. But shock and surprise when you updated your LinkedIn profile and then I messaged you for what is the discount code for the AlphaTauri website.
You need a lot of discounts to afford those clothing.
Mate, the shipping by itself is probably just ridiculous to anything to Australia. It's one thing I need to tell DR about is shipping rates to Australia are ridiculous. But AlphaTauri is where you find yourself. It is where you find yourself for this season. And of course, you're with Yuki. You mentioned Yuki just before. I think there's this narrative, isn't there, with the Drive to Survive thing about him being allergic to working out and him only being interested in catering and food and everything else. But by the looks of your stories and some photos of him being at the incorrect end of a gorilla and then realizing it and many other different things, it seems like he was copying whatever you were throwing at him and just wanting to put in.
Yeah, Yuki has impressed me a lot. We did a pretty big preseason training camp in Dubai, which I absolutely loved. It was probably the perfect thing to do together because prior to Dubai, we'd only had a coffee together after the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix to talk about me taking over. So, and that was just a good basic coffee to understand, just him as a person and what he's looking for in a coach. And that coffee probably went for an hour. And even then, you can sense that he's a nice guy, but you just obviously don't know how it's going to go. So Dubai was great. We got along straight away. before I knew it, he was bantering with me. I was bantering with him, and he just gets on with it, man. Like I know he's got this reputation from Drive to Survive, but I honestly, like, from that season to now, he's a different dude. Like, he just, I prescribe him what I prescribe, and he just follows the plan. You know, it's been over 5-6 weeks of training now, and there's not once he's complained. Not once is he like, oh, why do we have to do this? He's just like, yep, let's do it, let's go. And he's in full training mode. So he's definitely, his mindset's definitely shift, and he is. I know he comes across like everyone thinks he's funny, and because he speaks his mind, and that's a great positive in him. But I definitely see some very, very strong professionalism traits in him already, just on the way he conducts himself and the way what he prioritizes. So every morning, he won't organize anything until he knows that training's done. Once training's done, then he'll be like, okay, now I can do my leisurely stuff, and he'll never commit to anything until he can get his training done, which is super, super pleasing from my side, because it just shows where his energy and focus is going. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this year with him. It's third season for him. He showed some really, really big improvements last year. Started, out qualifying Pierre, which was great. It's a big positive for him, big confidence booster for him. He's obviously got a new teammate, Nick, now, who's very, very good, very, very experienced. So I'm looking forward to the challenge, man. And he's in very, very good shape. We just got back from the Rebel Performance Center, and all these markers have improved. So he's in a good place.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because, he said himself last year that he was shocked that he had a renewed contract with Helmut Marko and team for AlphaTauri. So surely that mindset is, well, I've got to prove myself for this season to get a gig for next year, when you've got people like Liam Lawson, who's now the reserve driver, coming up, or trying to at least come up, who's a New Zealander. So, of course, he's maybe not so good as anyone from Australia. Just to throw that out there. And you've got Nick de Vries, who, by all accounts, is an FIA world champion. Yes, it's Formula E, but he's still a world champion, meaning that on the Formula One grid, there's still the same number of FIA champions as there was last year, even though Seb has left, which is just an interesting point. So I imagine that he will want to be the lead driver in that team. But as you say, Nick won 2019 Formula 2 Championship. He's won Formula E. He's driven alongside Stoffel Van Dorn. He's been in that Mercedes family under Toto. So there's fierce competition. Do you think the training, or the fact that you're now involved with his training, is really going to give him a bit of a confidence boost mentally as well as the physical improvement?
I think time will tell. I think Yuki's coach prior to me, Noel, he was a very good coach, and he made some very, very big inroads with Yuki from a mental aspect and a physical aspect. So, I've got some big shoes to fill, and I'm ready to fill them. And yeah, like you said, Nick definitely shouldn't be underrated. He drove with the Williams last year and for one race, and had a mega race. So I do think Yuki's going to learn a lot from Nick from an experience perspective, and how he, his feedback when it comes to the car and setup and stuff like that. Because like you said, he's been in that Mercedes camp for so long. Nick's been listening to Lewis and Valtteri and George, so he's got a pretty impressive resume. So he's definitely bringing a ton of knowledge to the team that cannot be underrated, and it's exciting for Yuki, because that's what helps you grow, man. That's what happens. When Daniel was young, breaking through, he learnt a lot from Seb, and that really spiraled him and drove him to do better. And that's kind of that was his breakout season when he was pushed by Seb. And then you could probably say the same with Max. Max's breakout season was when Daniel was pushing him, and then he learnt a lot from Daniel. And that's the cycle of Formula One. So when you have a more experienced teammate, don't be intimidated by it. Embrace it and be like, okay, cool. Let's learn some things from him, whether it's driving style, setup, feedback, and let's improve my driving. And I think Yuki getting a contract renewal is super positive, because it shows that the Red Bull team, they believe in him, right? They know he's super quick. There's just a few things that we need to clean up that we'll focus on this year. And I think if we can clean those up, I do think Yuki has some big growth ahead of him.
So this is your fourth team in Formula One. If you don't mind me asking, how did it come about? So you said you had a coffee in Abu Dhabi afterwards. Was there a bit of conversation beforehand did any other teams show any interest? Is there like a performance coach silly season to go with the team principal silly season, the driver silly season, and the PR silly season?
It was a bit of a performance coach silly season, to be honest. There's like 3 or 4 coaches that made some moves, believe it or not. But for
Really?
me, it came quite late. I can't remember what race, but Yuki's previous trainer Noel, who I mentioned, he reached out to me, I think the third last race, and just mentioned that he's having a kid and he wants to I guess ease up his travel commitments as of next year. So he'll be parting ways with Yuki, which is understandably, he wants to be a good dad and be present. And he asked me, he felt that I was fitting for the role for Yuki, and that he put my name forward to Yuki, and Yuki was interested to talk to me. And so I kept that option open. And then I think in Brazil, the Brazil race come Sunday, I got a message from Christian Horner saying that there was an opportunity for you to work with Yuki. Would you like to have a chat? So I had a meeting with Christian and Helmut, and that meeting went really well. So that was kind of like I guess I kind of needed that meeting with them. The meeting with Noel went really, really well, and I think just having that meeting with Christian and Helmut kind of like solidified where I wanted to do. So that was Sunday race day, so that was a busy day for me. And then I had to race down the paddock after that meeting, because I was like, okay, now you need to talk to Franz, and I'm like, oh crap, okay, I need to set up. So like I've run down the paddock, had a meeting with Franz. That meeting went really well. So then verbally everything was kind of like, you could say technically agreed after the Brazil Grand Prix, probably like, I'm going to say Wednesday of Abu Dhabi. Everyone was kind of happy. So then that way, the last thing for me was to sit down with Yuki and have a coffee and just make sure that he's comfortable with me coming on board, because that's the main thing, right? The main thing is that he's happy. I don't want him to be like forced into this hand because Noel was stepping away. Like I wanted to make sure that he had the biggest say out of it all, essentially. So that was nice to have a coffee with him, talk a little bit about his interests, and when I think, as you know, when you sit down with someone, you chat, you automatically get feel good vibes, or you get awkward vibes, or you get, oh no, we're quite different humans here. We are different humans, but we have similar interests, and the meeting went really well. So I left Abu Dhabi pretty confident that this is like something that I wanted to pursue, and thankfully Yuki obviously agreed as well. So the rest is history. Now I'm on board with this man, and like you said, Alpha Tauri, and it's been a good couple of weeks in the team and meeting everyone through the testing that we've done so far.
And how good that it's a team that used to be part owned by an Australian, but is technically an Italian team. And just it's fantastic. Was there ever a moment that you were sort of saying to yourself, maybe I get to escape the circus in 2023 and not have to go to 23 races? And was part of you like maybe looking forward to maybe not traveling quite as much?
Yeah, definitely. It was something I was completely open to. It wasn't Formula One or nothing for me. I did look into like football. I was looking into tennis a little bit, and I did dabble with the thought of looking into NBA. I absolutely love NBA.
Yes.
I think when this opportunity came about for me, it felt right. It was a young driver that I know I definitely feel I can help mentor, nurture, and help him through life, and help him grow as a human, most importantly, but also as a professional athlete. I do think there's a lot that I can teach Yuki, and I've been doing that to date. And all credit to him. He's been so proactive in how I'm in my coaching style and how I want to go about this year. And I can just tell how engaged he is when I talk, and that's just so pleasing from a coaching aspect. I can tell that there's that automatic mutual respect there. I'm looking forward to, I think this year there's always going to be challenges. It's Formula One. So I'm looking forward to getting stuck into those challenges. And when we are when we are, like, I guess, at a bit of a road where we do have a bit of difficulty, I'm ready to I guess express my expertise and help him through that.
Yeah, man. Everyone at Lakeside Drive who listens and the hosts as well are bloody stoked that you're still involved, and fantastic that you're involved with Yuki, because he is a bloody exciting talent. That is for sure. Before we wrap this one up, I'd just love to talk about Jack Doohan, of course, who seems to be pretty on fire last year, and I reckon he's probably in with a good shot of taking the championship in F2 this year. I know that you've done a little bit of work alongside him and DR. There was some good Instagram posts and videos of him catching up. Is there anything that you're excited about for Jack for this year?
Yeah, it's always good seeing Aussies progress through through motorsport, and obviously we got Oscar in McLaren this year, so I'm really looking forward to following him. He's a super kid. I really do have a lot of respect for Oscar. He's got an Aussie camp as well. He's got Mark representing him.
Yeah,
and he's got a coach from Melbourne, Kim Keedle, who's a tremendous guy. So they've got you could say me, Blake, and DR were the Three Stooges, but I think they've taken over that name now. So I'm looking forward to see what they can do. And then you've obviously got Jack, which is super exciting. He had a really good year last year in his rookie F2 year. He's with a really good team, has a really good coach, Sergi. So he's got I hate to use this P word, but he's got a lot of potential. He's got a good head on him, good old Jack, and he's super committed. He does want to make a career out of motorsport. So I do expect him to give it absolutely everything this year. You could probably say it is a make or break year. It usually always is in Formula 2. If you're not winning it, or you're not in top two by your first or second year, unfortunately, generally the way things have progressed over the years, you're kind of overlooked. Which is as brutal as it sounds. That's just the way it's gone. So I'm definitely cheering for Oscar and Jack this year. Well, obviously first and foremost in F1, I'll be cheering for Yuki, but there'll obviously be a soft part of me making sure that I do want to see Oscar do well, and then in F2, I hope Jack really gives them hell.
It is important to note, and it's something that I've been saying as well. Oscar didn't personally rip Daniel out of that seat at McLaren. There's still a lot of respect between all camps. And as Australian fans generally, we still have an Australian driver on the grid, and it's bloody exciting that Oscar gets an opportunity, because for a while there with the whole Alpine saga, it felt like he was very far away from doing it. So it's good to hear, man, that there's no animosity between camps. Of course, that's the case, but sometimes people need to be actually told that sort of thing. Oz Grand Prix this year, it'll be DR's first Grand Prix of the season. It'll be your third, and then there's a massive gap thanks to China no longer existing on the calendar. Will you get some time at home, do you think, before going to Baku, or a bit of an Australian bent? Will we see you here for a couple of weeks?
Yeah, I'll come to Melbourne early to transition into the time zone, because obviously it's a big time zone shift from Europe to Melbourne. And then after Melbourne, me and Yuki are going to go on a 1 week training camp. I won't tell you where, but it's going to be awesome. So, and then the next extra week, I'll come back to Perth for a week to see family. I don't mean this in a way where I don't like going to China, but because of Shanghai not actually happening, it's a good thing for me, because I get an extra 2 weeks where I'm in Australia. So it works out perfectly where, one, we can do a cool training camp in a location, because Yuki wants to explore Australia more. So this is perfect. The weather's going to be amazing. Right. And then I can go back and see family. So yeah, blessing in disguise.
Yeah, man. Well, it's going to be a very exciting year for you this year. Again, as we said, we're all bloody stoked that you're still involved. And it's great that we, as Lakeside Drive, have a driver to cheer for in Yuki. And of course, he's got Josh Kruse in charge of social, who loves a good banter with Yuki as well. So 2 Australians on either side of him, 2 much taller Australians on either side of him, sailing him through this year.
Very true. Josh is a big guy.
Josh is ridiculously tall. I've never seen a taller Australian in my life. That is just the truth. I don't know why he didn't end up playing basketball instead of working social.
I liked him until he told me he was a Collingwood supporter, and then our relationship went sour.
Oh,
no, I'm joking. But, he's good too. He's a good dude.
We all make mistakes, mate. Look, Tommy T's also a Collingwood supporter, so we all make mistakes. Well, look, Michael Italiano, thank you so much for joining me, man. Such a pleasure, and hopefully we can catch up at the end of the very, very long season.
Thanks, James. It was good to speak to you again, and I'll speak to you another 2 years. See ya.
Take it personally. Well, a massive thank you to Michael Italiano for joining me for what was a very brilliant chat. Don't forget, the first half of Michael's journey to Formula One, from that point, you can find in the previous episode. The link to that episode is in the show description below. And of course, please check out Michael's My Trainer fitness app. You can find that in the link below as well, or simply search Michael Italiano on wherever you get your searches from. It's been a bloody brilliant start to the 2023 season here at Lakeside Drive, and there is more to come. So please make sure you subscribe and let me know if you'd like to have more interviews. Who should I interview next? You can leave a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or a rating on Spotify too. Don't forget, we do read all of them and appreciate all of your time listening to this show. If you want to be part of the community of Lakeside Drive, head across to our Discord channel. It is bloody fantastic. You will find like-minded people with a very safe, DR-friendly space to chat everything Formula One with. Well, that's it for this episode. We'll see you next time on Lakeside Drive.